Hello again, everyone. This is Kevin Small with CRPA. We do have the privilege of having Chuck Michel on the line with us today. For those of you who don't know, Chuck Michel is the volunteer president for CRPA, as well as the senior partner with Michel and Associates. If you were wondering where all of the lawsuits were coming from out of CRPA, this is where. So Chuck, thanks for being on with us today.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, well, I think we can just jump right into this. And when we're reflecting, I think it's important to do so here as well. So let's start at the foundation. I mean, obviously, we're in some unprecedented times, at least for our generation. So having said that, CRPA works with on a lot of different levels when you really think about it. You know, we work with the legislature, we work in the judicial system, we try to create positive relationships with government agencies like DOJ, municipal governments, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to pick your brain a bit. To what degree have these agencies actually been affected while we're on this lockdown on their day-to-day basis?
Well, yeah, you're right. The CRPA is probably it is the only pro-Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms association in the state of California that does it all. We have shooting programs, youth programs, women's programs, litigation program, legislative advocacy program. I can't even remember them all off the top of my head right now, but we do it all. And we have the CRPA as a 501c4 association, and the CRPA Foundation as a 501c3 that funds the eligible activities that the association does. So we've been around for 145 years. We're well established, obviously. We have the infrastructure in place, we have the office space, we have the staff, and we have the relationships. CRPA has the relationships with those local officials that you're talking about. And as a result, we were able to reach out to a lot of those local officials early on in this whole lockdown process and make sure they understood how essential and indispensable and important gun stores were, and never even had an issue with them in terms of trying to close them down or not. But we've still got a few recalcitrant jurisdictions. City of LA, that's not a surprise. City of San Jose, that's not a surprise either. County of Alameda, County of Santa Clara, but we've managed to flip a lot of the jurisdictions that were somewhat indecisive, the primary one being the County of LA. You know, we're still suing and working on suing the jurisdictions that won't flip, that won't allow gun stores to operate, but they've dug in, so to speak, and we now really have to go to court to make them change their minds.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of an interesting point. I mean, when the lockdown started, there were a ton of news and updates coming out daily on potential lawsuits coming out of the Second Amendment community pertaining specifically to the essential businesses. And I'm sure while we've all been at home for several weeks now, a lot of people are wondering, I mean, has the dust around this issue kind of settled? Do we have an idea of what we're actually fighting against, or are we still really looking at murky policies and suggestions being handed down?
Well, I wouldn't say the dust has settled, but remember, there's two different avenues being used to try and challenge orders closing down gun stores, and those orders are being imposed as part of this emergency response to infecting people to try and stop the cross infections of folks with the COVID-19 virus. Social distancing is the overarching policy that the governments, state and local governments, are putting in place to try and stop the spread of the disease. But they're also shutting down some stores entirely by declaring them to be non-essential. Now, you've got some folks that are suing these jurisdictions on Second Amendment grounds, and then the CRPA, we're taking a different approach. We're suing because just because the government has the power under an emergency circumstance to do certain things doesn't mean it has the authority to do anything it wants. So there are still some statutory protections for gun stores and there are limits on the local government's scope of authority that are dictated in part by the degree of authority delegated to them by the state orders. So it's a complex statutory and regulatory web that governs what the degree of authority that state and local officials have in the time of emergency. And I couldn't say the dust is settled because we haven't had enough emergencies for all of this to be litigated and decided by courts before. So there's a lot of uncharted territory in that regard.
But that is the difference that you're kind of saying here. I mean, we've seen a lot of litigation thrown at local and state government, in this last month and a half. A lot of them being kind of immediately discarded. And this is the change, or this is the difference you're saying in the CRPA lawsuits that are going to potentially make them successful?
The CRPA's approach is just different. I don't know that one is better than the other, but we wanted to make sure we covered all the bases. The problem with a Second Amendment challenge in California is that California is part of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Ninth Circuit has, ever since 2010, when the Supreme Court ruled in McDonald versus Chicago, the Ninth Circuit has been very reluctant to impose a meaningful restriction on infringements on the Second Amendment. The Ninth Circuit is basically hostile to the Second Amendment, I would have to say. And so their decisions have not given us, as Second Amendment advocates, the tools that we necessarily need to be able to bring a successful Second Amendment challenge. That's why we've been working so hard to get the Supreme Court to clarify that a lot of the things that the Ninth Circuit and other circuit courts have been saying are wrong. But that's not to say that those Second Amendment challenges to gun store closures aren't right. That is a Second Amendment violation. The people at the very time that they need to be able to choose to own a gun to defend themselves or their families the most, when civilization is, we plan for the worst and hope for the best, but there's definitely the possibility that people are going stir crazy from being locked up this long. And so some people are deciding that the best way to be prepared to defend yourself or your family is to have a firearm and ammunition. And so that's exactly what the Second Amendment is supposed to protect, is your right to be able to defend your family at the time when they're most at risk. So yes, it's a Second Amendment violation. It's just that the Ninth Circuit has refused to recognize a lot of things that are Second Amendment violations as such. So we need the Supreme Court to really reset that standard of review and basically reboot the Second Amendment jurisprudence in the Ninth Circuit.